In 5, 4, 3, 2. Hello everyone and welcome to Hello in 5, 4, 3, 2. Hello everyone and welcome to another Gozasan on the decks with your host Gozasan. And today we're actually going to talk about a different game, more like strategies to a specific game. And what I'm going to talk about is Plants vs. Zombies 2. Now, if you haven't played the game, I think you'll be quite familiar with this. Mainly, Plants vs Zombies 2 is out in if you know where don't know what Plants vs Zombies 2 is, I suggest you go check it out. It's a free game. It's on iOS. It's soon gonna come out for Android, I think. But right now we'll focus on the game itself. So right now, what I'm going to talk about is strategies to, if you play Plants vs Zombies 2, I'm talking about the challenge levels, where you just face up against endless levels of harder and harder challenges and see how many levels you can outlast. Because I actually have a record here. Give me a second. Let me see my record. I think, okay. My record, Pyramid of Doom, I'm about level 20 something. Big Bad Dead Man's Booty, I'm about level 33. And Big Bad Butte, I'm at level 24. Now, of course, that's quite high levels already, and in fact, it gets really tough during those periods. So I was like wanting to show you guys what are some of the best plans to bring in those kinds of levels. Because in different time periods, you're gonna face out against different zombies, and different plans will work better against certain zombies than other plans would. So let's just get right into it. First of all, I would like to say that we can classify certain different classes of plants. Like this is the list of different kinds of classes of plants. They are effectively have to sort of have certain traits that allow it to be in a specific class of plants. Now, I have a list here, but first we'll talk about the classes of plants. Then we'll talk about the plants that are in those particular classes in Plants vs Zombies 2. First, we have economy, sun-producing plants, which which is quite obvious. You know, the sunflower, the twin sunflower. So we'll not go into that. Those are quite important. You always have to bring at least one. Just bring one of any of those of the sunflowers into battle at all times. And you have defense, protects damage dealing plants. Sorry. What it means is it protects against zombies, like the walnut and tallnut. That doesn't really need any much introduction. And if you know that in general, but okay, I'll talk about that later. But yeah, we'll move on. Temporary support, supportive attacking plants that are used for early waves, replaced later when you have spare sun for heavier hitting plants. Temporary support, that means I have two types, temporary support and another one is first line damage. Now the difference between first line damage and temporary support is that first line damage, it just deals damage. Whereas temporary support, they have certain abilities which can help in neutralizing certain threats or to stall the enemy. Like say you compare the pea shooter with the kernel pult. Now the pea shooter just deals damage, everyone knows that. But the kernel pult, not only does it deal damage, though slightly less than the kernel pult, it also throws butter which stuns zombies. Now that is why that can be classified as temporary support. And then you have like you compare the pea shooter with the split pea. The pea shooter deals damage, but the Split P has a secondary function which neutralizes zombies that are behind it, because it deals more damage that way. Similar, the Lightning Reed is under temporary support. Iceberg Lettuce is also under temporary support because it deals its effects temporarily. And Bloomerang will Snow Pea and stuff like that. I think you get the picture. Now we talk about filters, and oh my god, this is one plant that you will absolutely this is one type of plant that you absolutely need in your challenge levels. Now what the filters are, it has to adhere to two criteria. One is that it can damage multiple enemies, and the second thing is that it will deal more damage the more enemies it is up against. Now two plants, there are three plants that go under this category, which few plants in fact. First one is the Spikeweed. The next one's Snapdragon. Of course, Spike Rock, you can also add that, but we'll talk about that later. Bloomerang is also a filter weapon. Filter plant, sorry. The Melon Pulse and the Winter Melon also filters. Now what the filters do, as you can see here, as I said, deals more damage the more enemies it's up against, but mainly it's there to help to allow other damaging plants to focus on larger targets. Like say you have 3 zombies coming at you and you have a Bloomerang trying to damage those 3 zombies. One of them is a bucket hit, one of them is a cone hit, and one of them is a normal zombie. Now you know that the Bloomerang will hit, okay, let's just get a bit of a visual. Now you know that the Bloomerang will hit these 3 at once, but it will kill this guy first, and then it will filter out the stronger targets like the bucket hit zombie and the cone hit zombie left. So as I said, filter plants allow other plants to focus on the harder enemies. That's why it's not good to put filter plants alone. Like you see the Bloomerang, it's a good plant, but it attacks really slowly. And that is why you need to put up some backup for it to actually be able to be more effective. It's like, you know, your sniper in certain shooting games. You pick off the more dangerous targets, and or you take off specific targets that will help the enemy team, so that your team can flush out whatever is remaining to allow them to focus on more dangerous targets. Or you focus on dangerous targets to leave the small fries for your team to finish off. So yeah, and I recommend you taking at least one filter plant, but we'll talk more about that later. One-hit wonders are plants that will deal heavy damage and are one-use plants. So it's like Potato Mine, Cherry Bomb, Jalapeno, stuff like that. I think you get the picture. It only lasts for after they do their thing. So there are 2 types, early and late game. Early is like those one-hit wonders you can use to stall, to build up your economy. Like say, if you're starting off, you start plants of sunflowers, and then when the first zombie comes in, you plant a Potato Mine, so it can save some of that sun to plant more sunflowers, and stuff like that. So yeah. And late game, that's early game because you're stalling to build up economy. And late game would be once you have the economy going and you have a proper defense, you can use more harder hitting one-hit wonders like the Jalapeno or the Cherry Bomb and stuff like that. So early one-hit wonders would be Potato Mine, Squash, Chili Bean, and late one-hit wonders will be Jalapeno, Cherry Bomb. Simple as that. Okay. So specific support. Useless on some levels, but absolutely powerful in the levels specific to them. Which rings up into like say Gravebuster, Spring Bean, Split Pea, and Imitator. So, well, Imitator not exactly specific support because it works on all levels. So I think we'll cancel that. So ignore the repeater here. imitator. I mean, sorry. So we'll talk about specific support is only useful on the levels that is useful. They are useful on. Like Grave Buster, they're only very good on Egypt levels. But what kind of use would they do on Wild West and Pirate levels where there's absolutely no graves for them to eat? And also, like say, Spring Bee, they're good on Pirate levels because they can insta kill zombies. But what's the point of just knocking pirates back in in like Wild West or Egypt levels when you just have to kill them? Doesn't make any sense, right? So specific support, everyone. And yeah, next we'll go on to burst damage. Now, burst damage is a bit hard to describe. It's more like it deals high damage in a short amount of time. But of course, it needs backup in order to fully utilize damage output. Because if they are alone, they probably might get overwhelmed. Like say, the two plants that I put down here. Actually, there are a few plants. I put there Coconut Cannon, Bong Choy, Repeater, Melon Pole. Now, some of these plants, like the Repeater and the Melon Pole, don't really need much backup. But mainly, I'm talking about the Coconut Cannon and the Bong Choy. Because the Coconut Cannon, it deals a high amount of damage, but it can't. Yeah, but it doesn't deal it continuously. It deals it once. Excuse me. And then it has to recharge. For the Bong Choy, it deals heavy damage, but it's very weak if it gets overwhelmed. Like say if you bring like I mean, okay, you sure you got the Bong Choy, you got the walnut protecting it, but there's 5 zombies chewing on the walnut at a time. The Bong Choy is not gonna survive because Bong Choy only can damage 1 zombie at a time. So you can imagine just how fragile the Bong Choy is in those kind of situations. Sorry, I'm talking too much. That's why I'm coughing away right now. So I better. Okay, but yeah, I think you get the point. Burst damage deals high damage in a short amount of time, but they still need backup. Yeah. Okay, we'll move on to full support. Now, long-time support plans to deal additional damage to enemies. Now, these two I would put there, Torchwood and Power Lily, which are store-bought plants only. So this full support is under only has 2 store-bought plants, which is the Torchwood and the Power Lily, because they can stay there for as long as they want. Well, Power Lily is not that long. It's just poof, one plant food, that's about it. But you can use them anytime you want, anyhow you want, and they will generally help in any situation. Makes sense, right? The the Torchwood helps pea shooter type plants out, and the Power Lily helps to build up your firepower, emergency firepower whenever you need it. Sorry, just need to get some water. Give me a second, guys. Okay. Now we move on to the last class, the heavy mainstays, which are plants that are used to replace weaker plants on the lawn. They are used in later waves. So the heavy mainstays would be like winter melon and the pea pod. These 2 plants deal a lot of damage, but they cost a ton of sun to plant, which is why they are used in later waves. I mean, first you replace the heavy mainstays, you replace the first line damage plants, and maybe the temporary support plants later on with the heavy mainstays. So yeah, that's about it. So with that, we will begin by describing each plant first and the zombies, and how to certain combos you can use to pair them up and then absolutely wreck the zombie horde. Some good plans. Okay, so let's begin. First, we'll talk about the pea shooter. Pea shooters are good first line damage plants. They are classified under first line damage plants, of course. And you should replace them once you get the sun up, the economy up, and you get harder hitting plants, and then you replace them. They are good if there is nothing to block their projectiles from the main enemy. Like say if you use them on Egypt levels, their P projectiles are blocked by the graves, so you'll need to remove the graves in order for the pea shooter to deal any damage. Or you are on Pirate Seas levels, and when you use the pea shooter, it gets blocked by the barrels from barrel roller zombies, like say here. Yeah, the barrel roller zombie. It has a barrel here with 2 imps inside, so it blocks the damage. And generally, the catapult type plants will be able to damage the zombie pushing the barrel. So that's good. So pea shooters are good if there's nothing blocking its way when it shoots. Which is why pea shooter type plants are good to be used with the jalapeno. Well, mainly that's on Egypt levels, because the jalapeno can clear the whole lane, and the pea shooter has a clear line of sight to shoot the zombies. Simple as that. Good combo. Also, as you know, Torchwood is good as well, but well, if you have the money, you don't have the money, then too bad. I also don't have the money, so I can't really buy anything. Alright, let's move on to the first economy plant, the sunflower. Of course, you have to pick up one sun-producing plant at all times. The sunflower is good if you don't really have much to worry in terms of space. Because even though the twin sunflower can save up space, it's cheaper to build and you'll get your economy much faster compared to the twin sunflower. Yes, if you, like say I right now have 75 sun to start with because I had the bonus as well. Planting one sunflower will give you will reduce it to 25, then 2 suns will drop, one from the sunflower, one from the sky, and then you have 75 back, and then you just keep on repeating, and generally you'll be able to get your economy much faster compared to twin sunflower. So if you know that you aren't going to face up against too hard an enemy, the sunflower is good to pick up, especially since you don't get twin sunflower that early on anyway. So yeah. Next, we move on to the first defensive plant, the walnut. In general, I find that using the tall nut isn't too necessary. Like, as long as you have enough plants that will help to deal with the enemies, like in Pirate Seas levels and also Wild West levels, you generally don't need the tall nut to help to block the imps that fly around, because it's not really necessary. And because at clutch moments, especially during later levels like about level 15 and above, you want to use as little sun as possible to stall as many zombies as you can on the early waves, because the amount of zombies during the early waves will increase as the levels get harder, as the number of levels increases, as the stuff like that. So you want to try and make sure you have a cheap defensive plan to put on for those clutch movements. That's why the walnut is good in most cases compared to the tall nut. I mean, yeah, sure, you can block launch dims, but if you put a bok choy behind the walnut and the imp gets launched behind the walnut, the bok choy could generally hit the imp that gets launched behind anyway, and stuff like that. Alright, Next, we'll talk about the first one-hit wonder plant, which is the potato mine. This is an early one-hit wonder. As I said, there's two types, early and late. This is an early one because it can help you to stall the enemy as you build up your economy. So, but in general, you can use it anytime if you have like a certain space you can throw in. I always like to bring either the potato mine or the chili bean with me anytime I do a challenge level because those are important as well. But potato mine, the only flaw that the potato mine has is on Pirate Seas levels, where in the Pirate Seas levels you have two places the potato mine will work on. It is those planked lanes where the potato mine, you can't plant any potato mines there, and also it's not high enough to deal any damage to seagull zombies. If you see the seagull zombie, you know that it flies above certain low-lying plants like the iceberg lettuce, spikes, and also the potato mine. So that's not going to work. In that case, the chili bean might be better. But then again, the chili bean has also certain flaws as well. And I would think the squash is a better all-around one-hit KO plant. But we'll go into that later. And then, okay, we'll move on to the next first line damage plant that you get from Egypt levels, which is the cabbage pult. Now the cabbage pult hurls cabbages at the enemy, but it has the bonus of also flinging its projectile above graves. That's a bit of a double-edged sword, if you would say, because if it focuses more on the enemy rather than the graves itself. So the graves won't be destroyed as sooner compared to when a pea shooter is actively shooting at them. But then again, the cabbage pult deals damage to zombies, which is important because sometimes when you have like early waves of explorer zombies, the cabbage pult can easily decimate it before it deals any damage. And yeah, so this is a pretty good early plant to use if you like bring along the Gravebuster. I don't think we need to talk much about the Gravebuster since well we can talk about a bit of strategy of how to use the Gravebuster, but the Cabbage Bolt is a good plant to bring out. Now another thing you want to think about when you choose which first line damage plant to choose, either the Cabbage Bolt or the Pea Shooter, is also maybe if you want to like want a specific plant food ability. In this case, the Cabbage Bolt may be better because it deals damage to everything on the map, which is a bonus. Whereas Pea Shooter only shoots down the lane it is on, but it can pretty much destroy anything in that lane also. So, two different things to think about. Next, we'll move on to the first filter type plant, but I will consider it overlapping between temporary support and filters, because the Bloomerang itself, it doesn't deal a lot of damage. It won't deal a lot of damage to hold out a single lane on its own. It needs backup. Because what if you do like a simple damage comparison, let's say the Pea Shooter, it shoots 1 P, the time it takes the Pea Shooter to fire 2 or 3 Ps would be the time it takes for the Bloomerang to fire out 1 Boomerang. So within the period that the Pea Shooter shoots out 3 Ps, which is 3 damage, the Bloomerang would deal 2 damage, but it will hit multiple opponents, and it is deadlier the more zombies is up against. It's a filter plant. That's why you need backup, because it's not going to deal a lot of damage. Even from far away, a normal zombie could walk up to it and still be able to chew it down before the Bloomerang can kill it. About 4 tiles, I think, somewhere around there. But I think you get what I think you know what I mean by that. Bloomerangs, it is a very good temporary support plant, but it needs backup. So, if possible, try and find. I mean, it's weak, sure, but it is a good support plant to bring on, especially like say when you face out against the barrel roller zombie, it can hit the barrel roller zombie, but then a cabbage bolt can also hit the barrel roller zombie as well, compared to the pea shooter, which just hits the barrel, nothing else. And yeah, I mean it can also hit zombie chickens, but it's not really that reliable. And it can also hit the explorer zombies, and mainly the bloomerangs are good against camel zombies in general because they're all stacked together. The bloomerangs will deal damage to all of them. So yeah, make sure you have backup for the bloomerang if you're gonna use it. Of course, if you have a heavy hitting plant like the bloomerang should be replaced later on with a melon pulp type plant, either the winter melon or the melon pulp. So yeah, just to let you know. Now we move on to the first specific support plant, the Gravebuster. Now, as you know, is only good on Egypt and nothing else. But the main thing here is how to properly use the Gravebuster where during like when you reach like level 10 and above in the challenge levels on Egypt, you notice a heck load of graves. And the problem here is how do you which grave to remove first to give you the best advantage in a level. Now let's say you have okay, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if we have paint. Maybe I have to find it. Okay. Paint. Okay. Let's make this simple. Let's make this real simple. Now you see here. This is the lawn, and you have 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh my god, this is horrible. Okay, let's just take this for example. Now you have a grave here, 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 and here. Now you use the Gravebuster, and you also brought along one early one-hit KO plant. Now you're supposed to put the sunflowers at the back here. But during this time, what is the best choice to use for the first Gravebuster you use, and which grave you should remove? Well, the first Gravebuster you should use should always be placed at the first on the lane which has the most graves first of all. And like say here there's a huge amount of graves. You can't really plant any damaged plants here because it's blocked. So you want to remove this grave here first. So we'll remove it. So here in case one zombie comes over here, you can put the one-hit KO plant here and he should be dealt with. And then you try and open up a bit more space, like start from the back. And then in general, once you have the space in all lanes to plant at least one damaged plant, you start from the back and then you just chew on it. And then once you have enough momentum, you can just automatically use the damaged plants that you have already planted. Like say you put a bloomerang here or a repeater or melon pole here. You can just use the plants to help slowly chip away the damage of the graves. Simple as that. So that's just a simple strategy for using Gravebusters. Now we move on to the iceberg lettuce. And for the iceberg lettuce, it is another temporary support plant. It is not a one-hit wonder plant because It doesn't kill a zombie. It barely deals any damage. It's just there to support. Mainly what the let me look here. An iceberg lettuce is good for is a good early plant to use for dangerous enemies, like say explore zombies, which come out very early, and then all of a sudden, oh sheesh, I don't have anything to deal with that, and you just put out the fire and stall him for a while, and then put another plant there to stall the explore zombie. But mainly but since it costs 0 sun, spam it as much as possible. Iceberg lettuce is meant as a plant that you can spam whenever you have the chance. So plant as many as you can whenever you can, because that will be important in the long run. Twin sunflower gives twice as much sun as the normal sunflower, but remember that if you are going for space, if you're not really worried about space, then you can just use a sunflower. You'll get your economy going much faster. But if you do have upgrades like say extra sun upgrades, the twin sunflower, best choice. Go ahead. It also gives 225 sun when you use a plant food on it, compared to the sunflower, which produces actually 150 sun, not 125. Best choice if you have enough sun in the bank. Bok choys. These are a bit risky in my opinion. Bok choys I classify them as burst damage. However, it can easily get overwhelmed. Like say if you bring in like two or three bucket hit zombies, bucket hit zombies, and then they start gnawing on the walnut is put behind against. If it doesn't have any backup, it's gonna get overrun real easily. Yeah, I can say that for sure. That's why I always say, always have a filter. A filter. And an excellent filter to use with the bok choy would be the spikeweed. Yeah, spikeweed. So if you're and bok choys are especially vulnerable against zombies which can one-hit KO plants, like the barrel roller zombies, and also more importantly the explorer zombies on Egypt. That's why bok choys alone won't cut it. You need at least one ranged plant to deal with those explore zombies in advance, or put some spikeweeds. One spikeweed and one bok choy won't really cut it in terms of being able to defeat a explorer zombie outright. I've tested this out. So you need a ranged plant and to back up the bok choy. And once you have enough momentum, the bok choy absolutely wrecks everything in its path, because you want to allow the bok choy to focus on one target at a time, not multiple targets at a time. You can't do that. Compared to like the snapdragon, which can where's the snapdragon? Yeah, the snapdragon, which can deal more damage the more zombies it's up against. Yeah, bok choy can only deal one damage to one zombie at a time. So in certain situations it's good, but most situations it's not really necessary to bring in bok choy. You might be better off bringing the snapdragon, but we'll talk about that more later. Next is the repeater, which I classify as a burst damage plant. It is an excellent burst damage plant, to be in fact, since it deals double the damage compared to a normal pea shooter. However, as you remember what I said, it is bad against protected enemies like barrel roller zombies and Egypt levels with a lot of graves. So you might want to clear that out. As I already said, an excellent way to clear this out in Egypt levels would be use the jalapeno. So in general, I would think that the repeater or the pea shooter would be better on, say, Wild West levels. But then again, Wild West levels, there's prospector zombies which leap over to the behind of the map, so the pea shooter should be replaced with a split piece. That's fine. And then yeah, now we move on to the Pirate Seas levels, where first plant you get is the Colonel Pole. Colonel Pole is placed there as temporary support. Now, temporary support because it doesn't deal a lot of damage. It can stall enemies, but that again comes down to luck. It's useful against flying zombies like the what is it called, seagull zombie, and also the zombie parrot that flies out of the pirate captain zombie. So yeah, but that is all by chance really. Now, yeah, it has to have backup plans for it to be effective. So make sure you have like a bok choy to defend it, or maybe a bloom another cheap plant like the cabbage pole or pea shooter, and the Colonel Pole should do fine. But remember that this is a temporary support plant and it should be replaced later on. Okay, we got that down. Next, Snapdragon. Oh my god, this is one plant that is very, very powerful. However, it does have its drawbacks. As I said, the Snapdragon is a filter plant, which means it deals more damage the more zombies it's up against. And it allows other plants to focus on dangerous enemies. Like mainly, since it's a short-ranged filter plant, it allows the long-range damage-dealing plants to focus on these enemies. However, Snapdragons have a drawback, and this is usually in the Egypt levels where you have the Explorer zombies. As you know, the Explorer zombies have a torch, and if it gets extinguished, the Snapdragon can light it back on fire. Not a good plan. So Snapdragons are not good on Egypt levels, but they shine in, like, if you see what zombies are gonna come out before you start a level. If you don't see Explorer zombie in the Egypt level, just bring on the Snapdragon and it will just decimate camel zombies, the tomb raisers, the pharaohs, and the graves that get raised by the tomb raiser zombie. Easily, very easy. And yeah, but remember, if like, okay, we'll focus a bit more on pirate levels. You know that the imp cannons are far away from the Snapdragon, so yeah. But we'll talk more about that later. It's generally not so. There's generally not really a flaw when you use it on Wild West levels with prospector zombies, because usually the Snapdragons will be about the third or fourth column, something like that. So it won't reach the prospector zombie to deal anything. But it's pretty good against chicken wrangler zombies, especially the zombie chickens that come out, because it's a filter. It deals more damage the more zombies it's up against. And if the chicken swarm comes in, just one breath of fire will kill all the zombies. You know, it's basically like, oh, you know, the lightning reed. You know, don't worry. We've got the Snapdragon, which deals more damage in general and can deal more damage to more than one zombie at once. So yeah, and it's wide range as well. And it has a very destructive plant food upgrade as well. Sets a 3x3 area in front of it, dealing massive damage. So all around good plant, but just be careful where you use it. That's all I can say. Spikeweed, another excellent filter plant. It also destroys one rolling zombie, but in general, the main purpose of the spikeweed is to filter. I would think so. Because once you get the momentum, you don't really have to worry about the barrel roller zombies being able to deal any sort of damage to the spikeweed. The spikeweed being affected by the barrel roller zombies. And it's pretty good against imp cannons because even though they don't destroy immediately and they get destroyed themselves, it deals chip damage to imp cannons enough for it to be destroyed soon. Before the imp cannons explode and a shower of imps just absolutely decimate the insides of your defense. Who knew? So the spikeweed is good to use with snapdragons, with bok choys. It helps the bok choy a lot in helping to filter plants. In general, 2 columns of spikeweeds is able to take down a regular zombie. Regular zombies like imps and zombies. So yeah, great plant to pick up. Use it anytime, anywhere. Also, spikeweeds also help to block out the tombs raised by a tomb raiser zombie. So good, plant as many as you can, but try and leave 1 columns in case you want to like put in a temporary plant like potato mine, iceberg lettuce, chili bean, stuff like that, or cherry bomb. You know, coconut cannon. Now this is, I don't generally use the coconut cannon. And even though some people say, oh, you want to use the coconut cannon as much as possible because it reloads, sometimes you want to use the coconut cannon as a stall tactic. Because sometimes you want to extend the length of how the amount of time it takes before the next wave of zombies come and stuff like that. So you can just hold the coconut cannon while it's still loaded, and then when you absolutely need it, or when the next wave starts to come in, or stuff like that, you can just fire it down and deal the damage, and then rinse and repeat. It's a good way to stall the next wave because, in general, when you take heavy mainstays like the melon pult and stuff like that, they generally deal the damage and waves keep on continuing to come in. With the coconut cannon, you have a bit of control of when you want the waves to come in and stuff like that. One thing that's not good about the coconut cannon is that it doesn't deal a lot of damage on Egypt levels firsthand, especially when there are a lot of graves, because as you know, the coconut cannon fires down a straight line like the pea shooter, so it's bound to hit the graves with its shot. So take note of that as well. Just be careful of that. And using the plant food where there's still a grave in front of it is generally not a good idea because it will just explode when it hits the grave. It won't just destroy the grave, all the graves in one line. It just hits the grave and absolutely explodes. So it's one waste of plant food. Not a good plant in general. Spring bean. Spring bean is another specific support plant, which means that it's only useful on Pirate Seas levels, but it's only useful on Pirate Seas level and useless in other levels as well. So, as you know, spring beans launch zombies backwards or into water if it's nearby. In general, the spring bean is good if there are a lot of plank lanes, which are if all the plank lanes are near water. Let's say, okay, let's bring up paint again, if we could do so. Yeah, there we are. So let's say you have 2 lanes here. So you have 2 plank lanes here, 1 unplanked lane here, and 2 plank lanes here. If you put a spring bean here, 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 and here, it will generally launch all the zombies it has here into the water, which is good. However, if like we change the board, okay, let's change this a bit. So if we have like say a lane here, a lane here, a lane here, and a lane here. So these are the three plank lanes. This center lane will have a problem if you put a spring bean here because it's not next to water. So it just launch zombies back. And here's another tip if you're gonna use spring bean. If you're gonna use spring bean for unplanked lanes, like when the swashbuckler zombie comes in and swings over here, you can generally put a spring bean right here, and immediately as he steps onto this tile, he will just get launched back into the water. That's about the range. But any deeper than this line here, and generally the spring bean won't be able to launch it back in water. It will just launch like right at the edge right here. Just to let you know. Let's save. Okay. So spring bean, use with caution. Know when to use it. If not, you might be better off using a chili bean. Okay. Next is cherry bomb. I don't think we need much introduction for this because you know it deals a lot of damage to a small area, 3x3. But one thing I find the cherry bomb, even though I classified it as a late one-hit wonder, it's also a good one-hit wonder to use on Egypt to clear out graves. Even though that may seem a bit trivial, but in the long run it can actually help a lot. So, but you must understand that if you have like a space restriction for plants, you might have to choose either the grave buster or the cherry bomb at the end of it if you want to figure out how to clear the grave, or maybe you might want to change it to the jalapeno. What do I know? So yeah, just remember that. Cherry bomb in general, you don't really need to bring it unless like in late waves, like you want to use it for large early waves, stuff like that. I don't know when. Sometimes I do use it, but in general, I'm okay using the grave busters since I know which graves to take out first and which plants to put in later on. Spike rock in general, yes, it is a filter plant like spikeweed, but in all honesty, is not really necessary. As I said, like the walnut, the tall nut isn't really necessary. The spikeweed is better. The spike rock isn't all that necessary because usually you want when you use a spike plant, you generally want to put it early, and during this time you don't really have the enough sun in your bank to put up a spike rock, especially during later levels where the early waves get quite intense early on. So you want to use something a bit cheaper and easier to put down so that you can make up as many plants as you can for the early defense. So spike rock isn't really all that necessary, and especially since that in general, once you have the momentum built up, you have a good set of heavy hitting plants. The spike rock doesn't really have to worry about nailing any of the rolling plants later on. So yeah, I think spikeweed is fair enough. The spike rock isn't really needed. Also, the three-peater, I put there under first line damage. You know why? Because it deals about the same damage as a pea shooter. Only it shoots in 3 lanes. So in general, it's not going to deal a lot of damage. I mean, sure, you save a lot of space. You could have 4 peas firing in the same line, but you know what? What else does that? Two repeaters in the same row. Who knew? In general, not that useful. I would think it would be better to just use a normal pea shooter in this kind of scenario, or the Snapdragon is much better compared to 3-peater because it deals more damage compared to 3-peater. Next, we'll move on to the Wild West plants, and first we'll talk about the split pea. It is an excellent, and I mean excellent, specific support plant. But in general, it's quite flexible. Even though I would consider it a specific support plant because it can shoot forward, but the main good thing about it is it can shoot backwards with double damage. So what you want to try and do here is, even though like it's good against prospector zombies, sure, but in Wild West levels where there's mine carts in front, like at the first column, where the zombies are gonna spawn, exploit the split pea's ability to be a repeater hit from the back. Exploit it, and since it's cheap, is a cheap exploit. Don't just like put a spike weed or spike rock on that front first column minecart, though you can do that. It's actually a viable strategy as well. But using a split pea can actually be pretty good as well. And also you get to use plant food on it, like pretty cool. Yeah. So exploit the split pea's ability to shoot backwards, and yeah, just use it. Chili bean. Now, chili bean, one hit. As I say, is a one-hit wonder plant, but it does have quite a number of drawbacks. Like, okay, let's compare it between the potato mine and the chili bean. The potato mine needs time to charge up, and it can't deal damage to flying enemies, but it can. But when it deals damage, it immediately kills them. Chili bean, on the other hand, it arms fast. It can even hit flying enemies, like the affect flying enemies like the seagull zombies. But it is very, how do you say, very I can't remember the word. It's very vulnerable to crushing type zombies, like say the barrel roller zombies, and the explorer world zombies will just crush it and as if there was nothing there. Seriously. So it's a bit of a trade-off here. You must understand that there's a bit of a bug going on right now, that where the chili bean can affect pianist zombies. Even though it's a crushing type zombie, it just rolls over and the pianist will fart and then the whole piano gets destroyed. But I don't know whether they'll fix that, but this will be later on. So the chili bean is good in certain areas and weak against in certain areas, and the potato mine is good in certain areas and weak against in certain areas and stuff like that. So understand, look at the enemies you're up against. Like say if you are up against explorer zombies, the chili bean is a no-no unless you decide to bring it together with the iceberg lettuce. Then maybe it is viable. And but if there's pharaoh zombies, the pharaoh zombies will eat the chili bean and for some reason not die. I don't know why. I don't know if it's a bug or they designed it like that. If you see barrel roller zombies, don't bring the chili bean. If you see pianist zombie, if you see pianist zombies, I don't know. If they patched it already, don't bring it in. So yeah. Okay, let's move on. Lightning Reed shoots lightning at nearest zombie up to 1 lane away, then bolt then arcs and hits other zombies. It is good against chicken wrangler zombies early on, in which case after that it will be a good idea to replace the Lightning Reed with another set of plants that can deal damage to the zombie chickens. Like say an alternative to the lightning reed, as I already said, would be using the Snapdragon, or you could use a whole column of spike weeds, and the chickens just won't be able to cross it at all. Or you could use the bok choy. Of course, just where's the bok choy? Bok choy, where are you? Use the bok choy, but make sure that the zombies don't stack up on each other, or else they will deal damage to the bok choy as well. Repeater is good, but not so fast. Snapdragon, pretty good. Spikeweed, pretty good. So once you have the momentum, replace the lightning reed with the Snapdragon and the Spikeweed, and it should work. Then we'll move on to Tall Knot. As I said, not really necessary, even though it has extra armor and blocks flying imps. It needs 125 sun, which generally during when you move on later in later levels, you generally want to build up a very fast and cheap defense early on, and then only later on you will replace them with heavy hitters. So generally, tall nuts aren't really necessary. However, one good way to use the tall nut would be when you have imp cannons on planked lanes. So basically, the tall nuts can block the imp cannon from being flung forward, so you can actually plant more plants on that lane, which is good. However, remember that tall nuts do not block imp cannons when they explode and they shower the imps over. So tall nuts aren't all that reliable, though it is a risky venture. This is like economics, though I don't study economics. It's a risky venture, because in the long run it may or may not pay off. Now we move on to heavy hitting plants. The pea pod. In general, I don't use the pea pod because I want a bit of splash. I want to be able to filter a bit more greatly. And the pea pod is not a good plant to use when there are barrel roller zombies. Because even though it deals 5 peas, shoots about 5 peas per second. I think so, 5 peas per second. It will still hit the barrel, and any zombies that are protected by the barrel roller zombie and the barrels itself will not get affected. And in general, it's not good to use on, let's say, Pirate Seas levels, maybe to some extent Egypt levels where there are a lot of Tomb Raider zombies, but generally, as I said, it's a heavy mainstay plant, so probably you will have a lot of damage. The pea pod is really good when you pair it up with the torchwood, because it deals so much damage. God, but in general, I don't use it. It's good in, like, say, Wild West levels, but I think that's about it. Because if the Wild West levels, you have these moving carts that you can move around, so you can just put a full you can just max out a pea pod on the cart and then just go to town moving it around. But in straight maps where you don't have that maneuverability, it's gonna take a while for the pea pod to gain momentum. Even though the recharge is fast, and it only costs 125 sun for one pea pod head, it still needs a lot of sun, and you need to wait for the cooldown to reload in order to plant another head and then another head, and then it takes about, I don't know. Fast recharge means it recharges in about 10 seconds. So in order to put one whole column with 5 pea pod heads maxed out, that's gonna take like 4.5 minutes. 4.5 minutes, which is gonna be quite a while. And especially since one large wave comes in every 1 minute, you just don't have that 1.5 minutes. And it needs a lot of momentum to build up. So in general, you would be better off going with the melon pulp or the winter melon. Melon pulp deals heavy damage to groups of zombies, so it's a filter plant as well. And Wintermelon also has the added advantage of slowing groups of zombies with the chilling effect. In general, I like to use the melon. These two heavy mainstays. I like to use the melon pult if I use the Snapdragon, and I like to use the Wintermelon if I use Bong Choy. But then somehow when I use Wintermelon with Bong Choy doesn't see any damage because of all the because the Wintermelon slows down the zombies, and then if the slow zombies down the spike rate, they're gonna stand on there for a longer amount of time, and they'll probably die before it even reaches the Bong Choy. So yeah, that's actually a really good strategy. But Melon Pult and Snapdragon worked really well as well. Mainly because Snapdragons breathe fire and it will just melt away the effects of slowing the zombies of the Wintermelon. So yeah. Yeah, I think you know where I'm getting at. Okay, now let's talk about premium plants. First we'll talk about the squash, and OMG, this is an excellent all-rounded one-hit wonder plant because it solves the problem where the chili bean is weak at, solves the problem where the potato mine is weak at. The potato mine is weak because it takes time to arm, and it solves that, and it can deal massive damage. And it's good where the chili bean is weak versus crushing plants like the explorer zombie and the barrel roller zombie, though it may probably release its payload. Which here's the problem I'm thinking. Even though there are 3 zombies that the squash may still have problems with. The chicken wrangler zombies, because once you stomp on the chicken wrangler zombies, the zombie chickens will just still fly out. And then you have the barrel roller zombie, in which if you stomp on the barrel roller zombie, the imp payload in the barrel itself will fly out as well. And if you hit the pharaoh zombie, you will just remove the sarcophagus shell and the zombie will just run off. Camel zombies, of course, you're just only going to deal damage to a couple of them. But in general, you don't really use one-hit KO plants for camel zombies. You want to use a filter plant versus camel zombies. Who knew? So yeah, in general, squash, very good. If I were to recommend a plant to buy, it would be highly recommended you buy this thing. It's an excellent one-hit KO plant, works anytime you want, and it's very fast to deal damage. Imitator, I don't really need to discuss much about it. You know that it lets you use 2 of the same plant during a level. But it really also depends on when you want the ability to choose 2 plants at once. So think about it, and if you need to, go ahead and use it. Snow pea fires frozen peas, making it hard to zombies to advance, but it's basically a pea shooter which slows down zombies one at a time. Which is, I mean, the excellent part about the snow pea is its ability to neutralize this guy. This guy is gonna take it when it meets up with the snow pea because it's just not gonna be effective once its torch is out. But remember that snow pea it melts with torchwood, so don't pair those 2 up, and never pair the snow pea with the snapdragon. Use the snow pea would be good. However, the snow pea also suffers in Egypt because of the amount of graves that it has, so you might need to use a grave buster or a jalapeno to remove the lane itself so that it can slow down everything. But the plant food grazer slows down all the zombies in the lane that is planted on, and then fires rapid peas. So in general, if you have the plant food, go ahead and use the snow pea. Next, the jalapeno. And destroy an entire lane of zombies. That's very situational. If you know there's a zombie specific lane which has huge amounts of heavy high health zombies like this or this or this or this or maybe even this. I don't know. This technically is good against the zombie bull because you know the imp flies off like the gargantuar, so you can use the jalapeno to take care of the zombie and the bull itself. I don't know, but I think it would be best to use on Egypt levels where there are a lot of graves, so it allows the pea shooter type plants to do their work. Pea pot plus torchwood. So I think another way to combo this would be using the jalapeno with a torchwood and the pea shooting plants like the pea pod, and you will have a huge defense set up with no worries of having to worry about graves in the near future, I guess. Then again, graves could sprout up again at any time. So you need a filter plant to take care of that. Power Lily. Now, Power Lily I place there under full support. So yeah, creates one plant food out of thin air. It helps to long time support plants deal additional damage to enemies, but it's very slow. I think it's about 60 seconds. I can't remember. I don't really know. But in general, Power Lily is one of those plants where it's not really that necessary unless you feel like you really need the high power immediately. This would be pretty good to use on any plant that can deal high damage in a short amount of time when used with plant food to clear out a specific area, like say winter melon. You can use it on winter melon. It's very powerful. You can use a pea pot on a moving cart. Pea pot alone, stationary, isn't really gonna do well with the plant food upgrade. You can use it on a spring bean to knock back all the zombies into the water on Pirate Seas levels. Or the Snapdragon for huge damage in front of it. Or Iceberg Lettuce to freeze everyone in the area. And that's about it. So it's one of those plants where, you know, if you are really low on plant food heading into the next level, Power Lily would do wonders. Yeah. So yeah, that's about it. I think that will be it for this session of Plants vs Zombies tactics. What I'll do now is maybe on the next video that I make, I will talk about how to counter specific zombies and how to read what zombies will come up next in a certain level and how to use what plants to use during those times. And yeah, so I would like to summarize. If I were to like give out a specific loadout to, like say you have 7 slots and you want to try and you're trying to figure out which plants to bring in heading into a challenge level. I have a pretty easy one. First, of course, you must get one economy plant, very important. One defensive plant, also important. One hit wonder plant. Now, it could be early or late game, any one of them. Get 2 filter plants or 1 filter and 1 heavy mainstay plant. So that's 5 plants already. So you have 1 economy plant, one hit wonder plant, 1 defensive plant, 2 damage dealing plants, either both of them being filters or one of them being a filter and the other being a heavy mainstay. Bring in 1 temporary support plant. Yeah, temporary support plant for a first line deck. And then the last 2 plants, you can either make them 1 temporary support plant bring in a temporary support plant, a specific support plant, or a first line damage plant. So you have three choices, but you can choose two. I personally think that one temporary support plant would be more important plant to bring in compared to the specific support and first line damage plant first hand. But that's up to you. So that's my 7 plant defense. That's my 7 plant defense, but yours could be different if you have an 8th plant. So yeah. Okay, so time to summarize all of this. By summarizing, I mean I'm going to name each class of plants by name each plant to its class of plants, to its class. Economy plant is sunflower, twin sunflower, very obvious. Defense plant, walnut, tall nut. Temporary support is snow pea, split pea, lightning reed, kernel pult, iceberg lettuce, blue meringue. Filters, spikeweed, spike rock, snapdragon, blue meringue, melon pult, winter melon. One-hit wonders, potato mine, squash, chili bean, alpino, cherry bomb. Specific support, gravebuster, spring bean, imitator, split pea, cherry bomb, alpino. Burst damage, coconut cannon, bong choy, repeater, melon pult. Full support, torchwood, power lily. Heavy mainstays, first line damage, pea shooters, cabbage pult, 3-peater, split pea to some extent. And heavy mainstays, winter melon, pea pod. Or melon pult if you're in certain conditions. Alright. And with that, that's the end of the video. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you in the next video where we'll talk about zombies and how to counter them. And maybe if there's too much time in that one, we'll split the video. So if there will be a third video, we'll talk about looking at what zombies come up and determining which plants you should bring in. So thank you guys for watching, and that will be the end of the video. Thank you guys, and have a good day. See you guys on the next video. Peace out, everyone.